Thank you very much, Melinda, and thank you everyone for coming out this evening. It's very important that so many people have taken the time to come out and hear the facts about what is proposed for your community. The reason that I got involved in this campaign is I was talking to some of the local Blacktown Greens members, and they said, we've got a big problem out here at Eastern Creek. We've got the world's biggest incinerator coming and we need some help. I came along with those members. Some of the councillors here were at those meetings as well, in this hall in February, and there was about 30 people here. And it was clear there was a very poor consultation process underway. That is, that the Department of Planning and the proponents had done a very poor job of letting the people of Western Sydney know what was coming for their community. And I started to inform myself. I read the EIS, I was reading the submissions, and it was incredibly alarming that such a massive development was sneaking under the radar and would add to in a cumulative way, add to already concerning impacts on air quality, the environment and human health in Western Sydney. And when you look at all the other developments that are happening out here, industry, property development, the other waste industries, why is it that Western Sydney has been targeted as a dumping ground for the rest of the city? And it's just not right. At the beginning of the public meeting, and I'm going to say that the proponents did the worst job I've ever seen of anyone of explaining the development, and I'd definitely like to thank the locals here and Jane for their presentation, because that's the facts. Their presentation was just absolutely so abysmal. It was full of untruths. It was completely misleading. They were saying things like, they stood up here and they said, oh, Greenpeace are all behind this. The Greens love it. And I was saying, well, I'm in the Greens. We think it's a joke. This is not clean, green, renewable energy. This is just a get-rich quick scheme for a multi-millionaire who's going to pollute this area. Now, I started informing myself, and the people that I reached out to were the National Toxics Network. That's why we put this on. They are the experts. They are the people that know about toxins. They know about waste. Believe them, they don't have any skin in the game. They're not making any money out of this. That's the important thing to know. They are out here advocating for the benefit of the community and the environment, and that's why we've asked them to come along and put what is such a fantastic presentation. Now, we've already seen in terms of the submissions, the EPA come out and say they're opposed, and we've seen the local health district say the same thing. Now, that should ring an alarm bell, and I'm very pleased that this is building a lot of support. I acknowledge the local Labor politicians, our local councillors, federal and state members who are getting behind this as well, and together we can build the pressure to stop this. Now, what I've been hearing from the state government, and this is where the rubber hits the road, because if you want it stopped, you need to bring political pressure to bear, because you do not want to get on the treadmill or the bureaucratic, technocratic planning process treadmill. You put the submissions in, you go to the Planning Assessment Commission hearing, they hear you, they say, we've consulted, and then they ignore you. They said, but we consulted you, and then they ignore you and they build it anyway. As night follows day, I have seen it 1,000 times in New South Wales. Some of the most outrageous developments approved, and they say, well, we consulted and we've knocked a few of the rough edges off it, but in the end they build it, and your health, your property prices, your community, your kids' environment, their lungs are destroyed by development you should never have had. So the way to do it is to bring political pressure to bear. The state government, who is responsible here, wholly responsible, can stop this dead in its tracks. And I thank the local member, Tanya Davies, a minister in the state government, for coming along here, because the ball is firmly in her court. And because the state government can do it, and it has done it before. I'll give you the example of coal seam gas. You may have heard of it, fracking and coal seam gas. Well, 5 years ago, this area was earmarked as a gas field. Eastern Creek was earmarked for a gas field. The state's largest gas field is only about 10 kilometres away. I don't know how far away that way it is. Camden, how far away is that? Anyway, it's just down the road here. There's it. It's just down the road. It's just down the M7. Anyway, it's not a million miles away. They had plans for thousands of coal seam gas wells. This area was a gas field. And there was a community campaign that built up around Campbelltown because this is where elections are decided. Federal and state elections are decided in these seats. As Western Sydney goes, so the state and the nation goes. And we brought pressure to bear. We brought pressure to bear in Campbelltown. The Greens working with local community groups down there about coal seam gas, and Barry O'Farrell blinked. They said for ages, oh no, we need an independent planning system, we're going to work through the process, and inexorably it would lead to the area becoming a gas field. Well, what happened was so many people were getting so upset that what they did is they rushed into state parliament a planning instrument that created an exclusion zone that said you cannot have a gas field, a gas well within 2.5 kilometres of a residential property. And they did it like that. Bang, they just went ahead and did it, and it killed that industry dead in its tracks. It stopped this area becoming a gas field. They had wells planned for Eastern Creek, exactly where this was. The fellow, the proponent, I noticed was here before. He had plans for gas wells on his site at the Dialer Dump site in Alexandria. And I tell you what, in Newtown they didn't like it. 10,000 people marched down the road and said, no, thank you very much. Barry O'Farrell got the news, he brought in the exclusion zone, and it stopped it dead in its tracks. And that is what the state government should do now. It should bring in an exclusion zone, bring in a planning instrument that just says it's totally inappropriate anywhere near houses as a first step. Now, I totally agree with the National Toxics Network that we need to move beyond dealing with waste the way we are. We need to move to cradle-to-cradle strategies. We need to move to zero waste. But this is absolutely the wrong way. Europe knows it. Japan knows it. If you look at what's happened in the city of Detroit, a massive cancer cluster around one of the biggest incinerators they've got there will do you want that in your backyard? Absolutely no way. I wouldn't want it in my backyard. I noticed they're not proposing it for Rose Bay or the northern suburbs. So when they've had one in Hornsby, or they've had one up in Ku-ring-gai for 50 years and everyone thinks it's tickety-boo, well, maybe we'll think about it, but we'll wait for that fact. So this shouldn't be foisted upon you. So what I've done as your local representative, or not as a state representative, is organise this forum, and I thank all those people for participating, but also I've introduced a bill into the State Parliament which is called the Environmental Planning and Assessment Amendment, Energy from Waste Residential Exclusion Zone, Bill 2017. It's a mouthful, but what that would do would ban these types of incinerators within 15 kilometres of an urban zoning. I introduced it in Parliament on the 30th of March, and as soon as Parliament goes back, I'm going to test the state government out. I'm going to move by contingency to bring that bill on, and I'm going to force them to a vote. And they can put their money where their mouth is. They can vote against it, and we'll know whether or not they're serious about stopping it, or they can let the process roll on. You need to understand that the planning process is stacked against you. It's proponent driven. It's their consultants. They say the jobs, like who here's got the money to hire our economic consultants, the scientists, the experts to go up against their thousands and thousands of pages. We don't have it. What we need is our elected representatives to come up with a political fix, and that is just to ban it, stop it in its tracks. That's what I'll be pushing for in the state parliament. That's what we'll continue to campaign for. So I really appreciate you all coming out. I know that there's going to be a resolution at the end of the meeting, and I hope that we can get a show of hands in support of that. Thank you very much. We'll keep fighting. We'll stop this incinerator in its tracks.